watching Estuary News. I'm Luke Adams. Coming up tonight, we'll have a roundup of the latest news headlines and all the sports news ahead of the weekend. And I'll be reviewing the week's regional papers with my guest, Rick Smith, director of Grimsby-based Forbes Burton. A by-election was held at Grimsby Town Hall last night. It follows the resignation of Labour councillor Ray Sutton in the Freshney ward of Grimsby. Our reporter Fred McNamara was at last night's count and brings us this report.
The resignation of Freshney ward councillor Ray Sutton left a power vacuum across North East Lincolnshire. Both Labour and the Conservatives hold 18 seats each, but with this by-election it promises to tip the balance of power, and it didn't disappoint.
Big sense of relief and obviously pride to be able to represent the ward which I grew up in as a child, so very proud. Well, there's certainly issues that have cropped up on the doorstep, and there's been a lot of doorsteps, I can tell you that. It's been the street scene, it's been grass cutting, certainly grass cutting not just by the council but also by Lincolnshire Housing Partnership, previously Shoreline, and also residents are keen to improve on recycling services. I'll be able to represent the ward, the residents in the ward that I grew up in, so I know the area well. I went to local schools in Freshney ward, and so I'm looking forward to representing the people in Freshney ward.
It's been a long campaign. It's been well fought by all candidates, without a doubt. It's been a fair campaign from what I've seen. Very good independent candidate, which is encouraging for people to put their head above the parapet and stand on issues. And it's been a campaign that's been fought on a wide front on several issues across the borough, that we hope that people can come to us and talk to us, and that they will get a true honest answer. If we can do something, we can. If we can't, at least we're there fighting the same battles as they are.
The Environmental Audit Committee warns that heat-related deaths are set to treble in less than 35 years unless the government takes urgent action to prepare the country for extreme heat waves. The committee has warned that the number of elderly people dying from the heat could rise to 7,000 a year by 2050. Our region has seen unprecedented temperatures this week, reaching around 29 degrees Celsius during the day and 15 degrees Celsius at night. The sunny spell is set to continue into the weekend, with temperatures reaching the high 20s or early 30s. More than 2,000 people died nationally in just 10 days in 2003 when a heat wave pushed temperatures to a record high of 38.5 degrees Celsius. East Riding College is working in partnership with East Riding Council to develop a new civil engineering course. It's after a gap was identified in local provision of qualifications in construction and civil engineering. There is also a shortage of such workers qualified at higher levels nationally. The organisations are consulting with employers in the local area to develop a course that meets local needs. The RSPCA in Hull says it could be forced to close unless vital funds are raised in the next year. They have had to close half of their kennels at the branch on Clough Road as they are in a poor condition. They need to raise £800,000 to keep running. This Saturday, more than 20 participants will be abseiling 98 feet from Lincoln Cathedral. The abseil is to raise money for the charity Lives. It will take place from inside the cathedral, with those taking part descending from the top of the bell tower. Nikki Silver, CEO of the charity, joined me on the server last week to tell me why it's taking place there.
It's an iconic building, isn't it? And it's one of those things. We've done some other sort of, adventurous type events, but we're thinking, what can we do that's really special? That will be, that celebrates the great work that we do, that draws attention, that raises our profile, and what better way than coming through a really small hole at the top of a cathedral and going down. I think people will love the experience. There's so much art and carvings and being up close with the stained glass up there and things, and then having this opportunity to descend at their own pace. They're in control at their own pace down to the floor.
And like you say, great architecture at somewhere like Lincoln Cathedral.
Fabulous. And then I'll be waiting at the bottom to congratulate them.
Lovely. A steady and calm hand. Did you raise lots of funds last year for this event, Nikki?
We raised a few thousand, which makes a really big difference. It costs us £1,000 to keep each of our responders on the road. So if we could do the same this year, that would be fabulous.
The 28th Hull Folk and Maritime Festival gets underway this weekend. The event starts tonight outside the Minerva pub on Hull Marina and will continue until Sunday. More than 50 acts will perform, including the Buffalo Skinners and the Demon Barbers. Several historic vessels will be moored on the marina for performances, while others will be on display. An auctioneer from Louth recently appeared on Estuary News to reveal the discovery of a forgotten statue. Alistair McPhee Micklejohn of Golding Young said the statue of the Lily Maid by the renowned British sculptor Gilbert Bayes was a fantastic find, having been lost for 90 years. We caught up with him at the auctioneer's Louth-based store to discover even more curiosities.
Golding Young as such have been around for quite a long time now. We formed in 1864. We've got places in Lincoln, in Grantham and in Bourne. We actually started up here in Louth because I'm a Louth chap myself, and we started here about 2 years ago now. As a general auctioneers, we deal in many things with all types of antiques, be it from the ridiculous to the absolutely mundane as well. If it comes in a box, we'll flog it. There's never a normal day in the office. A normal day in the office is the abnormal for most people. One of the great things about working in the antiques industry is the fact that you never know what's going to happen. I don't know many jobs really in the whole grand scheme of things where you can say there is no job. There is no day like another day, and that's very true in that case. With the Gilbert Bayes statue, it was one of those fantastic days where you see something, it turns up, you look at it and you go, isn't this fantastic? And yeah, one of those days. The reason we decided to set this place up in Louth was because we are aware that there's some fantastic things out there. People of Louth have always had great taste, and the items that people have collected over the years has proven to be, in the last 2 years, there have been some fantastic things come through. I mean, every week is something more and more curious. I mean, in the window today we've got a crocodile head, some fantastic waxworks that are actually used in medical science in the late 1900s. Where do you start? I think being in a market town, being somewhere as pretty and as affluent as Louth, I think it can only be in your favour. You've got fantastic Victorian, Georgian architecture all around, and to have the items that actually suit that Georgian and Victorian architecture is proof that Louth is one of those places that really has that kind of thing.
Time to have a look through the week's papers now with my guest, Rick Smith, Director of Forbes Burton in Grimsby. Good evening, Rick. Welcome to the programme. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
How are things at Forbes Burton?
Yeah, we're busy. We're busy. It's a good time. So, yeah, we're helping a lot of companies who are struggling. And so, yeah, it's very busy. But I've been away on holiday for the last couple of weeks. So I'm just getting back into it. I had a meeting this morning that was talking about things I didn't know because obviously, I wasn't
getting back into the swing and stride. Yes. Will you be expecting to see a demand in services with sort of like personal customers during the summer holidays?
Yeah, I think people tend to think more about the holidays, to be honest, and don't really think about their companies and so forth, and so that it does get on the back burner a bit. But it's then after the holidays when they realise the credit cards are coming in and that type of thing, and they're struggling, they've overspent, and that's when we tend to see an increase. But from workload at the moment, we've got sufficient going on with your Carillions and the fallouts of all these, and the high streets closing. There's a lot of sort of chains of suppliers that have been affected by all this lot, so there's definitely enough work for us out there.
Before we review the papers, what is your views on the closure of the high street? Because it's in a bit of a sorry state of affairs, isn't it?
It's a real shame, but I think we've got to adapt, and I think what should have happened is we should have adapted a lot sooner. I think now people will go to the internet to purchase their products because it's convenient, and this is why supermarkets came out, because people wanted the convenience. Go into one shop, they can fill their basket of everything they need instead of going to the butchers and bakers and so forth. And I think we haven't, and that's the problem. So it's now down to entertainment. You've got to have a reason now to go into a town centre. So I think that's the big push now is to entertain. So it's an experience that people, when they go shopping, it's an experience as opposed to just filling the cupboard with the required food or clothes or whatever they're doing.
So maybe your view would be perhaps to see more leisure units and coffee bars and coffee shops in town centres.
Yeah, I just make it an experience of shopping, and I think it's some nice sort of facilities there and something to attract people to it. Maybe like a bit of a like Hull did recently,
yes.
The festival type thing. Just bring something so they're going to come to the place as opposed to, and then they will start to spend, and so I think
boost that economy.
Yeah, we need it, because the worst thing possible is to have shops that are empty, because it just generally the whole area gets affected then, and that's not very nice.
Nice at all. Very good advice, Rick. Thank you very much. What's your first story, please?
Well, it's about bites, because I've just been away on holiday, and I got bitten, and it wasn't very pleasant. And they're saying here's a warning over the rise in sore horsefly bites. I'm not sure what had bitten me, but my ankle started to swell, so it got infected. I had to raise my foot and put creams on it and take anti-inflammatories, and I got control of it over a few days that way. But it was itchy, and but it's saying here that obviously the penicillin.
Okay.
You know, we've got a problem because the antibiotics that we're using is there's a struggle now with them because we're getting there's difficulties in prescribing which antibiotic for the bite to be able to treat it accordingly. So there's a call there to obviously be mindful that there's a lot more bites and to sort of deal with them as soon as you get them, as opposed to leaving them and then you get an infection which can cause more problems.
Is your leg recovered?
My leg is fine now, sir, thank you. Yes.
Pleased to
It
hear
took a
it.
while.
Dr. Luke there.
Just for one bite.
I know. Crazy.
Yeah.
Next story, quick.
Okay, meter opponents, meter advocates. This is about all these new meters that were British Gas and so forth, and electric people are sort of wanting you in. And we've sort of, what it's saying here was we've not really accepted these, we're not taking them on. So it's trying to convert the sceptics of this meter, and it's saying that you can move to a different company. You're not stuck to them because they provide you a meter.
Rick, we'll touch on that in part 2. Sorry to cut you short there. Join me after the break. We'll have the sports news and more from the papers with Rick. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, all the latest sports news. And still with me in the studio, Rick Smith, as we continue our review of this week's papers. Rick, sorry, I'll cut you short before the break there. We were talking about meters, I believe.
It was, that's correct. And the benefit to them is that you can see your consumption. So there's a little, you can see that on the screen, but there's a little sort of device there that it shows you what you're consuming. So that's a good thing for them. You can switch energy suppliers. And it's saying that there's going to the 6 billion is going to be saved between now and 2030 once they implement all
Massive
these.
saving.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Massive saving. Do you think this will take off, these meters? Particularly if it could save that much money?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got to do, and I just think it's a bit of a concern for people at the moment as to whether what's actually going on. But I think we'll get our heads around it. I think we'll be okay. Yeah.
And it looks like there's some great advocates. There's about 4 case studies there, isn't there?
There is. Yeah.
So 5 case studies. So they're obviously embracing these new meters.
Yeah, there was all sort of sceptical about it, thinking no, don't, and then they've actually experienced it, and they've all give positive signs to it. Like switching the kettle on, you don't realise how much energy you're consuming by switching the kettle on. Things of that nature, you just consume, don't you? And whereas if you've been aware of what you're consuming, then you can look to address it, which saves you pennies and CO2 and all the rest of it. So it helps us all collectively by monitoring your energy supply.
And like you said, just general housekeeping, Rick. Don't leave the kettle running for so long, turning lights off when they're not required, not using too much water.
Yeah, that type of things.
Which we're all guilty of that, I think.
We are actually, yeah. We consume, don't we?
Trains next, I believe, Rick.
Yeah.
This is in Grimsby Telegraph, Wednesday's Grimsby Telegraph?
That's correct. And it obviously affects Grimsby in that they've put a stop on it at the moment because of the new track charges that are being proposed by the ministers and the rail regulators. So they want to now readdress that so that they are aware that they're going to put a big investment in to get the trains to London, and is it going to be viable for them? So unfortunately at the moment Grimsby has been put on hold.
Okay.
But I do believe that Lincoln is in the run for, from what I understand there, they've got a direct link, and I think they're just about to build their station accordingly for that. So,
how would you like to see it? Would you like to see a direct service to London from Grimsby? Because the connections, it's relatively easy to get to the capital from Grimsby, and of course I live across on the North Bank in Hull, and the connections are quite good.
Yeah, I think so, because we've got a connection to Manchester. And now I talk to people that are going on holidays and that type of thing, they it's a useful connection to them. So I think if they're using that as a model, the Manchester people that use that sort of route, And I think it would be very good for Grimsby. We need something to lift Grimsby, and I think if we had a direct link line, and that would bring more business, I think locally as well. Yes.
Good. Okay, we'll watch that story develop with open arms.
Yes.
From spare room to accountancy boom.
I
This
like
one sounds interesting.
Yeah, because it's when people start off in business, and I see it quite a lot where they want this, or they've got to have this computer, they've got to have this, and got to have all their stalls set out. A lot of people tend to do that before they get going in business. But this gentleman here he was in a spare room in his house, or his mother's house actually, where he started his business up, and he's grown it and built it up, and he's now, I think, how many staff have they got here? I saw it earlier on. I think there's 5 staff now, I think. So from working in his mother's spare room,
impressive,
to having a business now, I think it's a good thing. It's just for people that want to go into business. It's not about getting everything to start. Just start and keep your costs down as low as you possibly can. Get the customers coming through, because this gentleman, he had no customers. He just decided to do this thing and build his relationship up from there.
What type of business is it?
It's an accountancy practice.
Accountancy firm. Okay.
Yeah.
And is that based in Grimsby, do we know?
It is, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Accountancy firm.
Well done to him.
Cottingham, and employs 7 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
7 people.
Yeah,
so he's doing well.
Not too far off. Yeah.
One to watch.
Yes.
One to watch. HIV.
Yeah, I thought I'd raise this because we've got figures here saying that there's 14 people a day now being diagnosed with HIV, and that's down from 17 a day in 2002. So we're going in the right direction with this, and I don't think there's enough publicity about it. I think cancer obviously is a big area, but it's still men to men is 2,800. This is in 2017. The infected rate, women to men is 1,140. 970 is men from women, and 131 is shared needles, and 13 is other. But they are making big leaps, and it's not a death sentence now. It's
and not seen as a taboo subject as it was back in the 70s and 80s when there was a big epidemic.
It was massive, wasn't it? And it was because it was all seen in the wrong perspective, really. But it's your immune system that gets affected by it, and the drugs today are really helping this out a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. So again, a very good news story there.
Yes.
Okay, just a few from me, Rick. My first one I've chosen because you're looking very dapper and dashing in your waistcoat this evening. And a good link here to Gareth Southgate.
Well, that's where it's come from. Yeah.
Absolutely. Could you be the next Gareth Southgate is the headline in Tuesday's Grimsby Telegraph.
Oh, right. Okay.
If you've been inspired by Gareth Southgate's outstanding management skills at the World Cup, Grimsby Institute may have just the course for you. Starting in September, the Institute will be launching an innovative new course on how to be a football coach taught by professionals in the game. I think you're suitably qualified.
Well, I'm dressed in the right way.
And waistcoats are very much back in vogue, thanks to Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, I think so. And I actually like it. I look smart. I think I think they should, and there's no reason why they shouldn't. And if he can be ambassador of that, so that's great.
Do you think that's given people more of an interest in football? Because, I'm not particularly a mad football fan, or sport in general, for that matter. But do you think his morale and the way he boosted the team players, he was a really good manager, wasn't he?
He's come up from the youth team, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's learnt his craft, obviously a player himself, come up from the youth team. I think he's made the right steps. But when there was talk about him getting that role, I think a lot of people were saying he's not qualified enough and so forth. But he's obviously proven there that, we did really, really well in that cup. Yes, we didn't go any further than... But I think, what he has brought to the team, the way he's managed it, the way he's managed the media as well, which is a big thing because, we have sort of slated our teams in the past, unfortunately. No, I really like the guy, and I think he is an inspiration for youth, be it football management. So yeah, it's a good thing for you.
And I hope that will motivate people to join this course in September.
Yes,
the
definitely,
future Gareth
definitely.
Southgate.
Yeah.
Just a couple more from me. Hull venue had its opening night on Wednesday, and it's the new arts and entertainments venue, which the first act to perform there will be Van Morrison next month. And I think this is great for Hull because we've got a brand new arts and entertainments venue now with some really big acts coming to the city. Rick Astley, I believe Boy George is coming there later in the year. George Ezra, the tickets sold out within minutes apparently.
Crikey.
So that's good that we've got this venue, and I think City of Culture has helped that.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's a great thing that we did. Yes, it was a lot of concern initially, a lot of money and so forth, but you know, Hull was looking like a place where it's not a place to go really, and I think what the council have been able to do there is amazing. I think they've started to turn this thing around. It's got a good name for itself now.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it's onwards and upwards for Hull, and definitely this is a good step in that
Could be a good
direction.
thing. Rick, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for reviewing the papers with me this evening.
You're more than welcome.
Now here's all the latest sports news. The English Football League has announced an initiative that will see teams including Grimsby, Hull and Scunthorpe wear shirts which will incorporate the mental health charity Mind logo along with the player's name. It's a 2-year partnership that will see all 72 Football League teams involved. With over 18 million fans attending EFL matches each season, the charity and the EFL hope that the increased visibility of mental health at matches will promote awareness and understanding among new audiences. Scunthorpe United hosted their annual Open Day yesterday. It gave fans the chance to see the players put through their paces as an open training session was held inside Glanford Park. A series of activities surrounded the stadium. The day was a great success with lots of fans attending. Sticking with the Irons, and the team are set to play Lincoln City in tomorrow's final pre-season game. Moving on to Hull KR, and head coach Tim Sheens has named his 18-man squad for the trip across the city to face rivals Hull FC. Fans will have everything crossed in the hope that new signing Todd Carney will receive his final paperwork in place to take the 19th spot for tonight's game, which kicks off at 7:45. It's bad news for Hull FC fans after Lee Radford confirmed Joe Westerman has undergone an operation on his knee after limping off in Sunday's game against Wakefield Trinity. The forward will miss the rest of the season as a result. And Grimsby Town take on Gainsborough Trinity at the Martin & Co Arena in their final pre-season game tomorrow. Kick-off is at 1 p.m. That's all for the sport. That's it for tonight and another week here on Estuary News. My thank you to Rick for an excellent newspaper review. As always, if you have a news story, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages. Details appearing on the screen as I speak. We'll see you on Monday with all the latest news from across the region. Goodbye.
Spire Window Systems sponsors the weather on Estuary TV.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Saturday will see some of the heavy rain from Friday continuing, but it will be interspersed with bright sunny spells. It will feel slightly cooler than Friday, but we're still looking at temperatures of around 25 degrees. Sunday should be a lot drier than Saturday, however there may still be the odd light shower towards the end of the day. Maximum temperatures of around 22 degrees.
Spire Window Systems sponsors the weather on Estuary TV.